Welcome to the Point. If you're like me, you're wondering if we live in a perpetual election cycle, and we are in one again. And it's important for us to not get weary, but take responsibility in this. In the past, we've discussed a biblical worldview and how it should shape our thinking and our lives, including our political involvement. Your biblical worldview, though, can only have an impact when you get involved. You should have received by now your county local voters pamphlet and your ballots. One of the things that happens when all these election cycles hit us and we get all of our information in the mail is that we can check out. And many Christians choose not to participate in the political process. Pastor Andy Wood says that the problem with Christians opting out of voting is that the world is outpacing the church in shaping our society's worldview. I would add that the world is also outpacing the church in shaping our culture. Remember, elections have consequences. So, what are some of the reasons that as Christians we may disengage in the political process? Well, many Christians choose not to participate in elections for various reasons. Some are just a simple indifference, maybe a laziness, maybe an unaware of our biblical responsibilities. Others believe it doesn't matter and see it as a pointless effort. Some think candidates are far below biblical standards and they're waiting for that perfect Jesus like candidate to surface. Still others feel overwhelmed by the huge amount of information coming at them and give up trying to figure out who stands for what, who believes what is true, what is false, and so in confusion, people decide to shut down. The Cultural Research Center reports that 68% of those surveyed said they aren't interested in politics. This is followed by 57% who dislike both presidential candidates or local candidates or whoever might be on the ballot for the election. An additional 52% believe their vote won't make a difference. And lastly, 48% worry that election results could be manipulated. One of the things we need to realize is how important local ballots are. In fact, in many ways, more important than a national ballot. And this election cycle is just that. It's a local issue ballot. We must remember that local ballots significantly impact our lives. They more directly help protect children from radical gender ideology, push back against corporate America's woke agenda, and can fight against the government's lawless overreach and pass wide-ranging pro-life and pro-parental laws. Although we have our own battles in all those areas, if we do not vote, we're not going to have an opportunity to prevail in any of them. Not voting or getting involved in local politics is short-sighted. Many evangelical Christians threaten to leave everyone, our global neighbors and our next-door neighbors, without help or hope from hearing our voice. Cornerstone Chapel senior pastor Gary Hamrick says, "Think about what has happened here in America in just the last 35 years. There's been gender confusion, marriage redefinition, the stripping of parental authority, and the deterioration of basic human freedoms. The nanny state has approved pornographic reading material in many public school systems and approved readings in local libraries by bearded transgender men in dresses and fishnet stockings. When we avoid engaging in the political process, we create a vacuum for malicious and predatory ideologies. The world hates a vacuum and quickly fills it with the closest available option, regardless of what it may be. The political indifference and disgust that characterize some evangelical Christians lead them to surrender control of our culture and the future of our children and grandchildren to ungodly and even evil actors. We cannot give any more ground to the enemy. God's people must be the decisive factor in matters of life and death, good and evil. And so how can we remain disengaged? Well, when we do engage, we then have another question: how do we vote? If there's no perfect candidate or perfect system, how then should we cast our ballot votes? First, let me encourage you to heed Paul's words in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9. It says, "And let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." I'd encourage all of us, don't give up. Don't let the enemy's lies convince you that it doesn't matter or that you don't have a responsibility to govern the affairs of the earth. Second, vote for candidates and initiatives that best align with a biblical worldview. There is no perfect candidate, and there is no perfect scenario. We must set aside our idealism and focus on practical realities. How can we most effectively fight the rise of evil? Right now, candidates and their parties present two very different visions for our nation. Party platforms reflect a political party's values and detail the policies they intend to implement. Research indicates that politicians vote about 80% of the time in line with their party platforms. To help you start analyzing a party, a candidate, a piece of legislation, or initiative, consider their views on the following topics. Is it a biblical worldview that's represented in these issues? There's many that we need to consider, but these are foundational. Number one is human life. Whether for the unborn or the born, is human life sacred? Secondly, marriage. How do they view marriage? What constitutes marriage? What's the rights of parents in marriage? Human sexuality is another major issue. The rule of law is another foundational precedent in which we should be concerned about when we're looking at candidates and looking at different initiatives. The First Amendment is a critical amendment, as is the Second Amendment. And then borders. And the reason for borders is because it's foundational to our nation's security, which is a primary responsibility of any government. So back to our local elections. Although this is an off-cycle election, several important issues are at stake. Those of us who live in the legislative district, number 26, have a state Senate position on which to vote. Those of us who are Pierce County residents have a significant once-every-decade issue to address. That is to elect candidates to fill the Pierce County Charter Review Commission. In your Pierce County Voters Pamphlet, pages 10 to 31, you'll find an explanation of the charter review process and the candidates running for the commission. Electing conservative candidates for the upcoming Pierce County Charter Review is critical. One key issue that could arise during the commission's review is whether our county sheriff remains in elected position or is appointed by the Pierce County Executive and Council. This is critically important for protecting our constitutional rights, which is also one of the many reasons why electing conservative candidates for this Charter Review Commission is so significant. All of us residing in Pierce or Kitsap counties have significant positions and measures ahead of us. Whether you live in Edgewood, Fircrest, Fife, Gig Harbor, Lakewood, Puyallup, Ruston, Tacoma, University Place, Bainbridge Island, Bremerton, Manchester, Port Orchard, Paulsbo, or Silverdale, which, by the way, are locations for all who attend our church family, you have positions, measures, and taxes to vote on. Pay close attention to your voters pamphlet and make sure you get the information that you need. Finally, if you've not yet signed all three of the current significant initiatives, please do. The first initiative, with the last three numbers 001, safeguard parental rights. The second initiative, with the last three numbers 638, protect fairness in girls' sports, prohibiting male participants in ladies' athletics. And then thirdly, with the last three numbers ending in 126, addresses the issue of requiring proof of U.S. citizenship for Washington state voters. In summary, or in getting to the point, number one, we must vote. Number two, we must vote in a way that most closely upholds the promotion and dignity of human life and which best represents God's biblical worldview on fundamental issues in our society. And then lastly, we'll have an information table up in the back end of our lobby for the next couple of weekends leading up to the election, where you can sign the initiatives, where you can ask questions, and you can also find out any information that you need to help you make good decisions. God bless, and we'll see you next time.